On May 10, 1972, Lieutenant Randy Cunningham and Lieutenant William Driscoll aimed to become the first American fighter ace pilots of the Vietnam War. They had already taken down 4 enemy aircraft while piloting their exceptional McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. Their 5th target was a solitary North Vietnamese MiG-17. But little did they know they were going against the infamous Colonel Toom, a legendary ace pilot well known in the North and South. Cunningham recalled, quote, "I could see a Gomer leather helmet, Gomer goggles, Gomer scarf, and his intense Gomer expression. I began to feel numb. My stomach grabbed at me in knots. As we zoomed some 8,000 feet straight up, there was no fear in this guy's eyes." There was much dread in the air, but both pilots knew their long-range fighter was fast and powerful enough to prevail, and it was the perfect opportunity to earn their coveted title. Versatility. In 1952, McDonnell Aircraft was concerned about a lack of competition in the military aviation market. However, internal studies showed that the U.S. Navy had the biggest need for a new type of aircraft, an attack fighter. In response, the company started revising its F-3H Demon naval fighter, seeking to improve its capabilities and performance. As such, McDonnell experimented with changes to the engines and top speeds. In the fall of 1953, the company presented the U.S. Navy with a proposal for the Super Demon. Its unique design, which allowed for modular assembly and interchangeable nose cones for different equipment such as radar, photo, cameras, 4 20mm cannons, or 56 FFAR unguided rockets, intrigued the service. The aircraft also had 9 hardpoints under the wings and fuselage, and could be fitted with a 1- or 2-seat nose, depending on the mission. Despite the Navy's initial interest, the Grumman XF-9F9 and Vought XF-8U-1 supersonic fighters already met their needs. Thus, the Super Demon was redesigned into an all-weather fighter bomber with 11 hardpoints. In late 1954, the Navy confirmed its intent to order 2 prototypes. However, a few months later, the service presented a completely different set of requirements. Given that the Navy already had the Douglas A-4 Skyhawk for ground attack and F-8 Crusader for dogfighting, the only role left to cover was that of an all-weather fleet defense interceptor. This required adding a second crew member to operate the radar, as designers anticipated that the next war would overwhelm solo pilots with information. And so the 2-seat, twin-jet, all-weather F-4 Phantom II was born, one of the most versatile fighters in history. 31 months. The XF-4H-1 prototype was a marvel of engineering, boasting 2 J-79 GE-8 engines embedded in the fuselage for maximum fuel capacity, and air intake through fixed geometry intakes. Its 45-degree swept wings featured blown flaps for improved low-speed handling, with the outer portions eventually angled up 12 degrees to correct lateral instability issues. The wings were also designed with a distinctive dog tooth for improved performance at high angles of attack, and the all-moving tailplane served the same purpose. The air intakes, featuring 1 fixed ramp and 1 variable geometry ramp, were designed to maximize pressure recovery between Mach 1.4 and Mach 2.2. On the other hand, the all-weather intercept capability was made possible by the AN/APQ-50 radar, while the fighter bomber could carry 4 AAM-N6 Sparrow 3 radar-guided missiles. Designed with carrier operations in mind, the landing gear was built to endure a sink rate of 23 feet per second, and the nose strut could extend 20 inches to increase the angle of attack during catapult-assisted takeoff. In July of 1955, the Navy ordered 2 test aircraft and 5 pre-production YF-4H-1s. 3 years later, Robert C. Little took the F-4H for its first flight. Early testing revealed the need for 12,500 holes to bleed off the slow-moving boundary layer air from the surface of each intake ramp. Despite facing significant competition from the XF-8U-3 Crusader III, the F-4H emerged as the winner in December and was soon renamed the Phantom II, after the original F-H-1 Phantom. Then, in the fall of 1962, the aircraft adopted the F-4 name after the Tri-Service Aircraft Designation System took over. In just 31 months after its first flight, the Phantom II had established itself as the U.S. Navy's fastest, highest-flying, and longest-range fighter. Speed is life. The Phantom II was a two-seater, carrier-based fighter bomber designed to serve as the U.S. Navy's primary defense fighter. It was also a formidable presence, measuring 63 feet in length and 38 feet 5 inches in wingspan, and weighing over 60,000 pounds. Despite its size, the F-4 was a high-performing aircraft, capable of reaching speeds of Mach 2.23 and climbing 41,000 feet per second. In addition, its 9 hardpoints could carry up to 18,650 pounds of weaponry, including air-to-air and air-to-surface missiles, as well as guided and unguided thermonuclear weapons. And although it was designed without an internal cannon, it was equipped with advanced pulse Doppler radar and extensively used titanium in its airframe. The Phantom II's impressive performance as a Mach 2 class fighter with long range and bomber-sized payload made it a template for future generations of large and middleweight fighters, optimized for daylight combat. Its most significant advantage in aerial combat was its acceleration and thrust, which led to the F-4 pilot's slogan, "Speed is life." Moreover, the F-4's J-79 engine was capable of reaching maximum thrust quicker than earlier engines, enabling skilled pilots to engage and disengage from fights at will. The aircraft eventually broke 16 world records in speed, altitude, and time to climb, including a 98,556-foot altitude record, set by the prototype in 1959, and a 1,604-mile-per-hour speed record set by another F-4 on a 15-mile circuit just 2 years later. The biggest mistake. When the F-4 Phantom II entered service in 1961, it was sent to the jungles of Vietnam to engage Soviet MiGs. However, the enemy aircraft were often able to outrun the F-4 due to its high drag. Designed as an exceptionally large fighter, primarily tasked with firing radar-guided missiles from beyond visual range, it encountered many problems in close combat. This lack of agility made the Phantom II vulnerable to harsh maneuvering by its Soviet opponents and put the aircraft at risk of falling into irrecoverable spins during aileron rolls. F-4 pilot John Cheshire called the absence of an internal gun on the aircraft, quote, "the biggest mistake on the F-4. Bullets are cheap and tend to go where you aim them. I needed a gun, and I really wished I had one." Despite these shortcomings, pilots reported that the F-4 was still responsive and smooth to fly at the edge of its performance envelope. Over time, the model was upgraded to address its flaws. Refurbishments included modifications to the weapon systems, avionics, radar, and engines, and later versions were fitted with cameras and surveillance equipment. In 1973, leading-edge slats were added to the wings, which improved high angle of attack maneuverability, but at the cost of top speed. That same year, Lieutenant Randy Duke Cunningham and Lieutenant William P. Driscoll, flying an F-4J with call sign Showtime 100, became the first American flying aces of the war. Their first 2 victories were on separate missions, but on May 10th, they shot down 3 MiG-17s in a row. After bombing their ground target, the duo engaged with 16 enemy interceptors converging on a USAF B-52 convoy attacking a rail yard. Cunningham brought down 2 of them and split from the strike package, heading towards the coast. According to legend, they then encountered a lone North Vietnamese MiG-17 and neutralized the infamous Colonel Toom, a legendary fighter ace. However, their F-4 was suddenly hit by a missile. The GOAT. To avoid being captured, Cunningham and Driscoll piloted their burning F-4 using only the Thunder and afterburner, as the damage had made conventional control impossible. They finally reached a body of water and were able to eject just in time, landing in the Gulf of Tonkin. The pilots were successfully rescued, and Driscoll was later awarded the Navy Cross. As told in a History Channel documentary, quote, "A Sam did what no Vietnamese fighter pilot could do, shoot down the F-4. Years later, the Phantom II was used again in Operation Desert Storm, and was adopted by the air forces of 11 countries, with the USAF being the largest user of the design. More impressively, the model served in the first line of more Western air forces than any other jet. The Phantom II was one of the most important combat aircraft in several critical locations and was involved in multiple confrontations over 2 decades. In fact, with its widespread service, technical advancements, operational capabilities, and large numbers produced, many experts and analysts consider it to be one of the best combat aircraft ever built. Some aviation historians even argue it is the greatest fighter of all time. The 5,000th example was delivered on May 24, 1978, and production ended in 1985, with 5,068 models built. By 1998, around 800 were in service worldwide, and some models are still operating in a limited capacity to this day. Thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe to Dark Skies and give us a thumbs up. Also, make sure to hit the bell icon to be notified of our newest content. And don't forget to check out the rest of our Dark Documentaries channels for many more epic confrontations from modern history and the technology behind them. Stay tuned.